It began as a subtle jab, or so it seemed. During a highly publicized speech at a women's leadership summit in San Francisco, former First Lady Michelle Obama stepped onto the stage to thunderous applause. She wore her signature calm but assertive expression, a poised symbol of the Democratic stronghold. With her words carefully chosen, she delivered what many thought would be another empowering speech on unity, justice, and progress. But midway through her address, Michelle took a turn no one expected. She pivoted to current political leadership and said with a smile laced in irony, "I've seen better leadership in high school student councils than what we're seeing in the White House today. Raising tariffs like it's a game of Monopoly doesn't make someone a genius, it makes them dangerous." The crowd roared, some laughing, others clapping. Cameras flashed. Social media accounts lit up within minutes. Her remarks were seen by many as a thinly veiled, if not outright, jab at President Donald J. Trump, who had just announced a controversial international tariff hike that sent global markets into a frenzy. The mainstream media went wild. MSNBC, CNN, and late-night talk shows replayed the moment with relish. "Michelle Obama dunks on Trump," read the headlines. Her words struck a chord with Trump's critics and stirred excitement among her supporters who'd long hoped she'd return to the political arena. But while liberal outlets praised Michelle's wit, the Trump administration was not amused. Especially not Karoline Leavitt, the 30-year-old White House press secretary and one of the most aggressive, outspoken defenders of the Trump presidency. Karoline, known for her no-nonsense demeanor and quick rebuttals, wasted no time responding. Within hours of Michelle's comments going viral, a storm was brewing inside the West Wing. She crossed a line, Karoline reportedly told close staffers that evening. "Mocking the president is one thing. Mocking the policies that are protecting American jobs? That's not going to fly." In a flurry of urgency, her team drafted a statement. But Karoline tore it up. "Too soft," she muttered. "This isn't a press release moment. This is a full-on national wake-up call." Instead, she called for a surprise press briefing, something rarely done at 9 p.m. from the James S. Brady press briefing room. As the press scrambled to gather, conservative media outlets teased what was coming. "Karoline has something to say, and it's going to shake Washington," said one Fox News commentator. She walked onto the podium with the calm fire she was known for. Dressed in a sharp red blazer, the color of battle, she placed her hands on the sides of the podium and looked directly at the cameras. "It's always easy to talk tough when you're sitting on a book tour and sipping lattes in Malibu. But some of us are doing the hard work to keep this country safe, sovereign, and economically strong." That line alone made conservative Twitter explode. Karoline wasn't done. Michelle Obama, with all due respect, doesn't have to answer to blue-collar workers in Michigan who lost their jobs to China. President Trump does. And while she's out here mocking tariff hikes, he's busy making sure that American steel, American tech, and American farmers don't get crushed under the weight of global exploitation. You could hear a pin drop. Reporters frantically took notes, mouths slightly open. Even seasoned journalists from the New York Times and Politico looked stunned. You may not like how President Trump talks, but let me tell you something, under his leadership, America is no longer playing defense. We're leading with strength. We're tired of apologizing for protecting our own citizens. The press briefing, which had started as a response to Michelle's lighthearted jab, turned into a thunderous defense of the new tariff policy and a passionate rebuke of liberal elitism. Conservative media hailed it as one of Karoline Leavitt's strongest performances to date. Newsmax dubbed it the clapback heard across the country. Fox News played it on loop, calling it an elegant dismantling of liberal hypocrisy. And President Trump? Watching from the Oval Office with a smirk and a Diet Coke in hand, he reportedly said, "She just torched Michelle. Good girl." The morning after Karoline Leavitt's explosive press briefing, the political landscape was on fire. Conservative Americans, especially in red states like Texas, Ohio, and Florida, rallied around her like she was a new Joan of Arc. On social media, hashtags like #CarolineClapsBack, #Karoline versus Michelle, and #Tariffs for America began trending in the early hours of the day at diners across the Rust Belt and coffee shops across the South. People talked about that girl from the White House who finally said what needed to be said. A retired auto worker in Michigan was quoted on local radio saying, "I didn't think anyone in D.C. remembered us anymore. That young lady, she did. God bless her." Leavitt's defense of the tariff hike struck a nerve. Trump's new policy, while controversial internationally, had gained traction with working-class Americans who saw it as a long-overdue measure to protect American industries from cheap foreign competition. Steelworkers, farmers, and manufacturers who had long felt abandoned by previous administrations saw Trump's move as bold, and Karoline's defense of it, heroic. "We're not going to be bullied by globalists anymore," Leavitt had declared during her briefing. President Trump made a promise to America's workers, and unlike the politicians before him, he's keeping it. But the backlash from liberal circles was immediate and brutal. The next day, Michelle Obama's spokesperson released a carefully worded statement. It didn't name Karoline directly, but it dripped with condescension. Mrs. Obama believes in empowering women through unity, not division. She finds it unfortunate that the White House has chosen to politicize a lighthearted comment meant to encourage smarter leadership. Smarter leadership? Karoline wasn't having it. She went live on Fox News that same evening, sitting across from Tucker Carlson with the same fire in her eyes. "It's always lighthearted when they do it," she said. "When a Democrat mocks the President of the United States, it's called humor. But when a Republican responds with facts, suddenly we're the ones politicizing it. Give me a break." Tucker laughed and nodded. "You're saying there's a double standard?" "There's always been a double standard, Tucker," she replied. "If a Republican woman like me defends her country, I'm called aggressive. But when Michelle Obama takes a cheap shot at our president, she's applauded as brave and witty. This isn't about words, this is about truth. And the truth is, President Trump is putting America first again. That's what really bothers them." The interview exploded across social media. Conservative influencers posted it with captions like, "Karoline is who every conservative woman should aspire to be." But behind the scenes, the Democratic establishment was rattled. Michelle Obama was their unspoken moral compass, someone above the political fray. Having her attacked, even indirectly, was not something they'd anticipated. And the person doing the attacking, not a seasoned senator, not a grizzled campaign strategist, but a rising star who had never held elected office. A young woman from New Hampshire with a microphone and a message. Karoline Leavitt's name was suddenly everywhere. CNN called it a reckless escalation. MSNBC's Joy Reid said Karoline was a dangerous mouthpiece for a dangerous man. But even they couldn't deny the moment's impact. "She knows how to play the game," said one Democratic insider anonymously to Politico. "And she plays it well." The Trump campaign quickly capitalized on the attention. They released a digital ad within 48 hours, showcasing clips of Leavitt's press briefing and TV appearances, cut alongside footage of struggling American workers and President Trump's rallies. The tagline? "They mock us. We fight back. Trump 2024. Donations surged. Small-dollar donors who hadn't given in months sent in $10, $20, even $50, many of them citing Karoline by name in the donation comments. Meanwhile, inside the White House, Karoline was riding the wave but staying sharp. She knew this wasn't just a media storm. It was a battle for narrative control. If the Democrats could spin this as another Trump tantrum, the energy would die out. But if she kept the fire lit and the focus on the real policy issues like tariffs, American jobs, and sovereignty, she could keep winning. And so, she doubled down. ATA press gaggle 2 days later, she delivered yet another bombshell. If Michelle Obama wants to debate trade policy, she's welcome to come to the White House anytime. But let's be honest. Talking about hope and change is easy when you're not in the driver's seat. Leading a nation through economic warfare? That's a different story. The room gasped. Reporters asked, "Are you calling Michelle Obama out publicly?" Karoline didn't blink. "I'm calling out anyone who thinks it's acceptable to mock our commander-in-chief while he's out there fighting for American workers. The time for polite silence is over." That quote ran on the front page of the New York Post the next morning under the headline, "Karoline versus Michelle. The gloves are off." The media frenzy had now escalated into a full-blown culture war, with Karoline Leavitt at the epicenter. What had begun as a pointed joke by Michelle Obama had spiraled into a symbolic battle for the soul of American politics and the heart of the working class. Karoline's boldness had stirred the conservative base, but now it was bringing out another force. America's forgotten middle, the independents, moderates, and swing voters who had once leaned Democrat but had grown disillusioned by rising prices, unchecked immigration, and global economic dependency. While liberals scoffed at Trump's international tariff hike, labeling it reckless isolationism, Karoline framed it as the economic border wall, a measure to shield American jobs and values from being bulldozed by globalist greed. During a town hall in Pennsylvania, Karoline stood shoulder to shoulder with steelworkers, union guys in boots and denim who once voted Obama but had swung red in 2016 and 2020. "They laugh at you," she told the crowd. "Michelle Obama and her friends in the media, they sit in their mansions sipping wine, making jokes about the president who stood up for you. But guess what? We're not laughing. We're rebuilding." Applause thundered. One burly man in the crowd shouted, "Tell him, Karoline." She did. When President Trump raised tariffs, it wasn't to make headlines. It was to send a message. America will no longer be the piggy bank for the world. We're not going to export our jobs and import their dependency. We are taking back what's ours. That clip hit millions of views in under 48 hours. Fox News called her the Iron Hammer with a velvet glove. Even CNN's Van Jones admitted, "She's young, she's sharp, and she's connecting with working-class folks in ways Democrats haven't done in a decade." But Karoline's success drew blood. And where there's blood in D.C., there are sharks. Liberal pundits dug into her past. Old college tweets, internship roles, even her high school yearbook quotes were dissected. One outlet ran a piece titled, "Who is Karoline Leavitt? Trump's mouthpiece or MAGA's new megaphone?" The White House press room became a daily war zone. Reporters grilled her about every comment she made, twisting her words to fit headlines. But she stayed unshaken. "You can't cancel someone who doesn't care what you think," she told a particularly snarky journalist from NBC. "I'm not here to win your approval. I'm here to represent the American people, not your cocktail parties." That quote, again, went viral. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, Michelle Obama was fuming. According to sources close to her, she hadn't anticipated such an aggressive retaliation. "She thought she was untouchable," said one DC insider. "Now she's realizing that the rules have changed." Political insiders speculated whether Michelle would hit back directly, but her advisors cautioned against it. Engaging further, they argued, would only elevate Karoline's star. Besides, the Obamas had carefully crafted an image of moral superiority. Descending into political mud would damage it, so Michelle remained silent. But the left-wing media did not. The View dedicated an entire segment to Karoline's meltdown. Joy Behar dismissed her as a Barbie with a bulldog's bark. Meanwhile, Whoopi Goldberg suggested she was trying to be Trump's female clone. Karoline laughed it off. "I'd rather be a bulldog for America than a puppet for China," she tweeted, tagging the show's hosts. "Funny how liberal women only support women when they agree with them." The tweet shattered records. Conservative women across the country began rallying behind her, calling her fearless, the future, and the female fighter we needed. At a Turning Point USA conference that weekend, Karoline received a standing ovation even before she stepped on stage. Her message? "I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to lead." The left says women should be strong, until that strength threatens their narrative. They say we need more female leaders, until those leaders speak conservative truth. Well, I've got news for them. I'm not going anywhere, and neither is President Trump. The crowd went wild. In less than a week, Karoline Leavitt had become the new face of Trump's America First movement, and a thorn in the side of liberal elites who underestimated her. And the message to Michelle Obama and her allies was loud and clear: mock Trump if you want, but be ready for the fight that follows. By now, the name Karoline Leavitt was etched into every political conversation across America. She wasn't just a spokesperson anymore. She had become a movement. In a time when Americans were weary of polished politicians and bureaucratic doublespeak, Karoline's firebrand authenticity struck a chord. She wasn't reading from the old DC playbook. She was tearing it up on live television. And it wasn't just conservatives cheering her on. In places like Pennsylvania's coal towns, Wisconsin's dairy farms, and Nevada's truck stops, people were tuning in to her press briefings like it was Monday Night Football. She was saying things they had felt for years but never heard from anyone in power, especially not from a young woman in the halls of the White House. For the first time in a long time, one voter posted online, "Someone who looks like the elites is actually fighting for us." Inside the White House, President Trump was thrilled. He praised her publicly during a cabinet meeting, saying, "Karoline's a killer. She's got more backbone than half the politicians in Congress. I like her style. Direct, tough, America first all the way." That clip was replayed across conservative media and added fuel to speculation that Karoline was being groomed for something bigger. A future run for office, or even a VP nod if Trump chose to shake things up for 2024. The liberal establishment was officially on defense. Michelle Obama, for her part, had gone dark. No more tweets, no public commentary. Insiders said she was advised to stay quiet. The Karoline backlash had backfired, energizing Trump's base and alienating many moderate Democrats who viewed her original joke as elitist and tone-deaf. But not everyone on the left was content to stay quiet. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez took to Instagram Live, calling Karoline a fake populist and a puppet reading Trump's teleprompter. Within hours, Karoline fired back on X, formerly Twitter. "AOC calls me a puppet, but she votes exactly how the squad tells her to every time. The difference? I fight for American jobs. She fights for clicks." Boom. The internet lit up. Even Elon Musk responded with a laughing emoji, posting, "Karoline's replies, congressional hearings." Conservatives embraced her even tighter. At rallies, people started wearing shirts that read, "Karoline v. Everybody, not your average press secretary tariff queen," but what Karoline did next made everything that came before look tame. She hosted an impromptu press briefing in front of a shuttered textile factory in North Carolina, one of many that had closed down due to cheap Chinese imports over the last 2 decades. The rusted gates and overgrown lot behind her served as a haunting backdrop. "This is the cost of globalism," she began, her voice steady. "This factory used to support 400 families. Grandparents, moms, kids, all living the American dream. Then politicians like Joe Biden and Barack Obama sold that dream overseas." She gestured to the closed gates. "This is what Michelle Obama forgot when she laughed at President Trump. This is what the elites ignore while sipping champagne at fundraisers in Beverly Hills. But we haven't forgotten. And we're not laughing." The raw power of that moment swept through the media landscape like a storm. NBC tried to downplay it. CNN called it theatrics. But even The Hill admitted the event was an unorthodox stroke of political genius. Karoline wasn't just defending Trump's tariffs. She was personifying them. "Every dollar spent on foreign steel, foreign goods, and foreign labor is a dollar stolen from American workers," she declared. "Tariffs aren't punishment, they're protection. And under President Trump, America will never be left unprotected again." Later that evening, as photos of her standing before the factory trended online, Michelle Obama reappeared, subtly, on Instagram, posting a photo of a sunset with a vague caption about rising above the noise. The comments section, normally filled with admiration, was now mixed. One follower asked, "But will you ever respond to what Karoline said about that factory?" Silence. Meanwhile, back in DC, Karoline held yet another press gaggle. One defiant reporter asked, "Do you feel guilty about escalating this into a public war with a former First Lady?" Karoline didn't flinch. "What I feel guilty about is watching American jobs disappear while political royalty makes jokes on stage. If defending American dignity is considered war, then I'm proud to fight it every day." She turned, gave a nod, and exited to the sound of flashbulbs. She was no longer just Trump's press secretary. She was the voice of a revolution. The sun was setting behind the Capitol as Karoline Leavitt stood behind the White House podium one more time that week. The press room was buzzing, not because of a major policy change or foreign affair, but because of her. The moment had arrived where it all came full circle. She wasn't just defending President Trump or his tariff hikes anymore. She was delivering a national reckoning. "We're no longer playing defense," she said, locking eyes with the crowd of journalists before her. We're playing offense for the American people. And she meant it. Earlier that day, Karoline had spearheaded the launch of a new White House initiative called the American Workforce Restoration Act, designed to bring critical manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. using a combination of Trump's newly raised international tariffs and strategic tax breaks for small and mid-sized factories. And guess what? It was working. Preliminary economic data showed a spike in domestic factory investments since the tariff hikes went into effect. American-made steel orders were climbing. Textile mills in Georgia and Tennessee had announced reopening plans. For the first time in years, blue-collar families were beginning to believe again. Karoline stood at the heart of it all. When asked how she felt knowing Michelle Obama had once mocked the very policies now showing early signs of success, her answer was clear and devastating. It's easy to mock what you don't understand, but the Obamas had 8 years to fix this. They didn't. We've had less than one, and America is already rising again. It was a mic drop moment. That clip aired on every major network. Conservative pundits hailed it as the new Gettysburg Address for working America. Liberal outlets scrambled to shift the conversation, but even some moderate journalists admitted Karoline had struck a nerve that transcended party lines. And then, something wild happened. Michelle Obama responded. Not through snide remarks, not through subtle jabs, but through a full-length Washington Post op-ed titled, "Leadership and Laughter, Why I Spoke the Way I Did." She attempted to reframe her initial joke as a light-hearted moment, never meant to belittle hard-working Americans. She praised Trump supporters for their passion, but emphasized the importance of unity, love, and avoiding the politics of anger. It was polished. It was respectful. It was classic Michelle. But America wasn't buying it. Karoline, never one to miss, posted a brutal 2-minute rebuttal video from a factory floor in Michigan, surrounded by working-class women. Michelle Obama says we shouldn't be angry. Well, let me ask you, should we be happy about losing jobs? Should we celebrate watching our families struggle while elites smirk on late-night TV? She gestured to the workers beside her. These women aren't angry because they're hateful. They're angry because they've been ignored. And under President Trump, under this administration, we're listening. The video shattered online records. Tens of millions of views. Fox News aired it in full. Even some on MSNBC admitted Karoline was a rising powerhouse. The American people had made their decision. Mocking Trump meant mocking them. Mocking Karoline? That meant declaring war on the very fabric of working-class America. But Karoline wasn't stopping there. The next day, she joined President Trump on stage in Ohio during a rally. As Air Force One loomed in the background, she introduced him with conviction in her voice and fire in her eyes. They tried to cancel him. They tried to silence me. But they failed. Because we don't back down. We double down. And come November, we're taking back this country. One factory, one job, and one family at a time. The crowd erupted. Chants of USA, USA, filled the air. Trump gave her a hug and stepped up to the mic. Karoline Leavitt, ladies and gentlemen, isn't she something? We're going to make America strong again. And thanks to her, they'll never mock us again. And just like that, Karoline cemented herself not only as a key figure of the Trump administration, but as a new icon in American politics. Fierce, relentless, and unapologetically American. As for Michelle Obama, her joke had backfired in the biggest way possible, by awakening a storm she never saw coming. A storm named Karoline Leavitt.